Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming today. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Hashfara Rapani Priyaputra, and here I will be your speaker as in our small discussion about how to make spaghetti carbonara. In this discussion, we will talk about three main contents in making carbonara spaghetti. The first is main ingredients. In the main ingredients, we will talk about the pasta and also the sauce. Moving on to the steps, we will talk about how to cook the pasta, making the sauce, and finally, the assembling. And the final content will be about finishing or garnish. If any of you have questions in this discussion, please hold it until the end of the session because we will have our Q&A session itself. So, as a starting, let's begin with the ingredients. So, there are two types of pasta. The first one is homemade and the second one is store-bought. Me myself, I prefer to use store-bought pasta because it is way simple to use. You just buy, unwrap it, and boil it. However, homemade pasta is also a really good pasta if you can actually make it yourself. So we will talk about the homemade pasta. The homemade pasta, to make this, you need eggs and also high protein flour. As these ingredients, you will need a scale of 1 egg on 100 grams of flour. Moving on to the steps is we will you will need to mix the flour and eggs according to the scale before. So as an example, you will need 2 eggs for 200 grams of flour, 3 eggs for 300 grams of flour, and so on. And then when you mix all the flour and eggs, you will need to knead the dough until smooth. And then you will need to rest the dough for at least 50 minutes so that it will rise. After the dough rise, shape it to your liking. Moving on to the sauce. As the sauce, you will need half an onion, 3 cloves of garlic, 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter, 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour, 200 milk as the base, cheese, salt, sugar, pepper, and also oregano as an additional. You can choose to put oregano or not because some people doesn't really like oregano. It's all up to your preferences. Moving on to the next step, we will talk about the cooking steps. First, boiling, cooking the pasta. In cooking pasta, you will need to boil some water. You need to remember to boil enough water so that the pasta is soaked completely. And then you will need to salt the water to give the pasta a taste itself. And then just cook the pasta usually until al dente. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes. Or you can just take a piece of pasta and throw it to the wall. If it sticks, then it is ready to cook. Moving on, we will make the sauce. In making the sauce, you will need to peel off and prep all the ingredients before, such as onion and garlics and stuff. Then you will need to melt the butter. After after melting the butter, you will need to throw in the onion and remember to cook it on a low heat because you want the onion to fully cooked and caramelized. And then in the midway of cooking the onion, throw in your garlics add salt, milk, and also all-purpose flour. And then simmer it until thickened. And of course, you need to stir it often so that it won't burn in the bottom. Then add a whole bunch of cheese. Well, it's depend on your preferences, but a lot of cheese, more cheese, the better it is. And then you want to top it with oregano, but it's also optional. Then finish it with sugar and pepper so that it balances the salt and also the cheese. And the final step is just to taste check whether it is uh, too salty or too sweet. Just add some of the lacking ingredients. Next, we will talk about the assembly. When you're cooking the pasta, you need to save some of the pasta water. This pasta water brings the dish together. Uh, I will talk about that pasta water later. So, moving on, you need to prepare the cooked pasta and then in a saucepan, heat up your sauce before. So, we are cooking it in a separate pan. In the new saucepan, heat up your sauce and then add in the pasta water. This pasta water will break down the thick sauce that we will help the pasta into a complete dish. And then when you put in your pasta into the sauce, you will need to cook it into desired consistency. And the final step is finishing, or we call it plating. First, you will need to twirl your pasta using tongs or fork from the saucepan, then slowly move it into the plate. When it is beautifully done, you need to pour the leftover sauce from the pan into the plate. And then, as the final touch, you can top it with cheese, crushed pepper, oregano, or maybe protein of your choice. And the garnish, and then garnish it with fresh parsley or parsley so that it adds color into the dish. That brings to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for all of your attentions. So, if I can just sum up the main points, in making carbonara spaghetti, you will need to cook the pasta first. Then, while it's cooking, we need to make the sauce as well. Then, we'll need to assemble them with pasta water and serve it with preferred items such as cheese, crushed pepper, or maybe protein of your choice. All right, that is all for our discussion today. Thank you very much for your time and attention. As I said before, we will have our Q&A session right now. So please feel free to ask. Thank you very much.